Hello. Welcome to my huge channel. Sarcasm, huge. Look what I did. So I don't have the greatest complexion, but I just hit myself with my ring. I usually like my ring, but I have to remember sometimes it could be mark-inducing. Oh, I got a little lump too. You don't care. So I don't have any bottle porn for you today. My sin of the day is Le Lion by Chanel. I do, however, have a whole bunch of samples, so I promised a couple friends that I would send off some samples, and I finally dug out from all the snow we've gotten last week, and finally moved my car for the first time in literally a week. So I will get to the post office later today. And so, one of the things I was going to say, this is so satisfying, but the zipper. Uh-oh. What have I done? Something is caught. Okay. So I was so there was a request of samples that I'm going to send off, but I was going to throw in a couple extras, and I was going to throw in this Andrea Mac sample set that I got because I was just so pissed off at it. I just wanted it out of my sight. And then I'm calming down as I am here right now and getting closer to actually putting together the packages. And so why I got so mad at these suckers is, so this house, it's from Iceland, Andrea Mac. And it's from Iceland, and their copy on their website is high natural perfumery, 80+% all naturals. So I am an all natural fiend. When I want or when something is all natural smelling, like more than likely I will assess it in a better state than I would a lot of these artificial bombs out there. So I was expecting to get something really natural. Now, they may be 80% natural, but the 20%, or whatever the number is, right? It's just high. But whatever the 20% or 15% is, artificial aroma chemicals, they've used the most artificial ones and the most obnoxious ones out there, because that's all I smell. And I realized I have to give this another shot because I was expecting naturals and I didn't get it, so I was pissed off. So I probably didn't really assess these very well. So I'm going to try this again before I throw them away and let somebody else try them. Always try things twice in life, people. Like, seriously, like, that is something that I live by. It's usually, what happens is, if I don't like something, it's just usually if I try it again for the second time, I usually confirm that that's what's going on. I don't like it. But a lot of times when I think I like something a lot, it turns out that in the second wearing or the second eating or the second whatever I'm doing, it wasn't nearly as mind-blowing. So that's why I always try stuff twice. So anyway, that's what this is about. So I was going to get out these and sniff them again on camera, but really what's going on, I really want to have a discussion about something else, which I think is going to take me too long to talk about. So I'll do those samples later off camera, or maybe I'll do it tomorrow or something and do another video. Oh, 2 in the same week. Oh my gosh, I can barely get one a month out these days. But anyway, so I watched a couple videos over the weekend or the last couple days that sparked some thoughts in my head. So this is kind of a follow-up to a video I made many months ago at this point when I first started. It was like my 3rd or 4th or 5th video talking about art and perfumery and language and the confluence of all those. And so these couple videos that I watched, I think advanced some of the thinking, because I basically just had, I was thinking about that, like I said, half a year ago or so, and I put it on the back burner, and now it's to the front burner. Okay, so, and this is, go with me here. This is kind of a journey, and I might get a little bit too intense and start saying too many words too quickly of a time, but stay with me here. So initially, when I first got into perfume, like hard and heavy in perfume, my thought was, we don't have the so as a general rule, we don't have the language to talk about perfume in a coherent way. It's, it's why all these videos, and I'm so guilty of it as well. It's like, what do? It's good. It's bad. We might get bitter. We might be able to identify sweet. If you've smelled enough of certain notes, you can identify when you smell a rose, but you're not actually describing the rose, right? Anyway, so my thought at the time was, if I only figure out to get the language, I'll be able to experience the art of perfumery in a more higher elevated state once I have that language. That was where I was 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago. And then about half a year ago, I was like, no. There's something different here. Something's going on. Perfumes and scent, our experiences with scent, they're tied to our limbic, our lizard brains. I'm not the first person to say these lizard brains. Lots of people, I've heard people use that term. You're tapping into something deeper, right? And my hunch at the time was, in the evolution of my thinking was, okay, no, you don't need the language. This is something else. This is something different. But I didn't go beyond that, honestly. And these couple of videos that I'll explain here in detail, or semi-detail, got me thinking again, and maybe it pushed my thought process a little bit further on. So the first video I watched was Cormac McCarthy. So he's a famous writer. I've never actually read his books. Some of the more famous ones are Blood Meridian, The Road. Was it The Old Men, No Country for? I don't know. I've never read anything. So, but just a really quick Wikipedia search, it looks like what he's known for is kind of, they call it anti-Western, like post-apocalyptic something. But the person, is very much, he was very interested in math and science, and he spent his last 30 years, he actually died earlier this year, but he spent the last 30 years of his life, 35, I don't know how long he was actually out there, in Santa Fe at the Santa Fe Institute, and I'm not exactly sure what it is. I tried looking around a little bit, but the gist of what I can tell is they're a think tank up in Santa Fe, where a lot of scientists and mathematicians go, to delve into higher maths. I mean, when I say higher math, I'm like, what did I get? How did I go so far in math in school? Differential equations. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking really high math and explaining, the universe in the context of math. And actually, I don't think it's just restricted. I think it's just a think tank for a bunch of geniuses that go, and and their mission is, basically to. It's kind of, in a way, it's kind of like my alma mater, St. John's College, but just more geared to having discussions and talking about philosophy and the Western Civ, but they seem more focused on discussions of math and science. Anyway, so he was really fascinated with that, with this whole place, this whole Santa Fe Institute, and having the discussions. And I don't know if it was it was just a shtick, because I subsequently, after I saw that video, I saw a couple of others. I watched a couple of others, and he seemed to bring that up enough. So I don't know if it was just a shtick that he used for interviews, or if it was really his oeuvre, and he really felt passionately about this. But he went into talking about math and logic. When a scientist or a mathematician is focusing on a complex problem and they get stuck, right? So they're using the logic and the math to go step by step by step, and then they get to a point where they can't actually go any further. There's something that's not computing in their head, they can't figure it out. And so what oftentimes will happen, or what a lot of this, the myths out there about how people actually end up solving these complex problems is they go to sleep, they have a dream, and the subconscious, unconscious, whatever you want to call it, works on it and figures it out, and doesn't don't know how we're getting to it. Like, is it pictures? Is it, there's usually some kind of picture or some kind of animated scene in our heads that helps us figure out what math and overt logic would not let us get to the answer, right? And he quoted some famous examples, some famous people out there. And the interesting thing that he talked about was the hypothesis that the reason why that happens is language in the Homo sapien in humans has only been around for 70 to 100,000 years. The best the scientists can figure out. But we as like Homo sapiens have been around, evolving for, million plus years, however long it's been. So relatively speaking, language has only been a part of our, shall we say, discourse, for a relatively short amount of time. So the stuff that, when I say language, I'm also equating that with math and logic, and we haven't, so it's whatever we've been doing to evolve, like our brain, we didn't just automatically know how to be, have language. Like, we were also processing, and we were also smart. Like, in a lot of ways, the way animals are smart, and they can figure stuff out. And, we're not as more developed than them as we used to think we were. But there's something going on in our heads that can process all of this in a non-language, non-logic way, and we can find answers to stuff that we get stuck on in our waking time. I find that very interesting, and that kind of relates to my my whole discussion that internal dialogue I've been having with perfume and art and language, because it's kind of very much similar. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to put these, I haven't put the dots together. I haven't connected the dots yet, so I'm curious what's going to come out of my mouth as I try to put my thoughts out here. Okay, so the next video that I watched was the Leodorance podcast. I really like them. There's 4 people. They get together. They talk intelligently, or sometimes not so intelligently. Sometimes they can be juvenile. But I really like, for a couple hours at a shot, and they'll up and talk about perfume and, tangential topics that go along with perfume. And so it was Christmas. It was Halloween recently, and they were talking about spooky perfumes. And part of their discussion was around how we have a different approach. We as people, just as a general people, we have a different approach to assessing the beauty of the art of perfumery versus more stereotypical visual arts, paintings and stuff. Whereas when we're exposed to gross or off-putting stuff to our noses, i.e. some of the Secretions Magnifiques, or there's another one out there, Sombre, I think, from Prim Lomrose. Both revolve around putrid and bodily secretions. We have this revulsion to them, and there's a couple that will appreciate the beauty, but as a general rule, we have ooh and nice, right? It's and whereas with painting and artwork, more, what you think of as artwork, stuff on the walls, or literature for that matter, we can see and be exposed to something that's ugly, something that's distasteful, something that's, violence, torture. I think of I always forget his name. I don't know if I pronounce it right. Hieronymus Bosch? He's the medieval painter who painted dreamscapes of torture, and it was around the Black Death time. And they're very it's very repulsive in its torture and its violence. And we can see that, and we can look past that initial revulsion, whereas perfume, the initial revulsion is kind of like our assessment. And it's we dismiss it as, no, it's not good art. Even though we can overlook that in more visual or language-based art forms out there. And, I actually forgot where they landed. But where my mind goes on why is that the case, I think back to what Cormac was talking about, and what I've been thinking in my head about how I don't know if that's right. So I don't. I wish I can. How do I say this? So the animal in us, when we are exposed to a scent, we like if it's off-putting, it's like it's usually a sign of danger. It's a warning sign. Hey, it's poison. Hey, something's wrong here. It's dangerous to you. Stay away. And that's how your subconscious, your limbic, your lizard brain is processing smells. But when you get to the art form of it, why can't we look past that initial repulsion? So it's like when you have thinking of just like how we're a nerd to like violence in in our culture these days between, I won't even go into the politics part of it, but like, the stereotypical like, video games, the violent video games and violent movies have unnerved us to the violence and the ugliness about it, right? And so it's almost like because we have this like veneer of we're just hardened to it, we can look past that initial repulsion and can see something beautiful in the artwork itself, in the beauty of it. It's the whole Baudelaire Fleur de Mal kind of conversation with, finding beauty, seeing jewels in dead bodies, right? It's you can look past it, whereas in perfume you can't. It's like you're almost not able to. And the question I have is, so like when I was talking about how what our waking days, our waking use of like logic and language, we can get stuck on a complex problem, whereas our limbic brains can process that like and solve the problems in without language, without our advanced civilization brains. I'm just wondering, like, why can't we do that for perfume? And just because, like, so what's, like, is it just a matter of, like, they're different? Like, perfume, the art of perfume and the art of literature and painting is different? Does it mean one is higher than the other? Again, that's where my brain was before. It's like, oh no, like early on, language, just because it's not, just because it came first, i.e. the limbic system, doesn't mean it's lesser than the stuff that came later, i.e. language and our appreciation of art in the context, through the context of language. And I don't have an answer. Clearly, I don't have an answer. I don't know where it goes, but it's different, but could it possibly mean that, like, if we can figure out, like, if we can just sleep on these perfumes, can we figure out the complex problems of assessing perfumery, the art of perfumery, if we just stopped being awake, and we can because there is something higher about the fact that our unconscious, subconscious can actually figure out complex problems. So, like, what's higher? Is it, like, the language actually higher? No, not necessarily, because we need our unconscious. We need our sleeping brains to actually process things in a way that we can figure these problems out. And I talk about art being a problem. That in itself is interesting. I won't even go down that road. But anyway, all of this stuff is just, this is just where my brain is this morning and this last couple of days. I don't have an answer. I really don't have an answer. But, as you're supposed to, yeah, this is a really bad circle of thing. Try everything twice. Keep thinking about stuff. Just because you find one answer, or just because you have an answer at one point in life, doesn't mean your thought process can't evolve and lead you to something higher and a more sound, reasonable answer. Oh God, this is so lame. Oh well. I'm done. I don't think I have anything else to say because I don't know. Yeah, maybe I'll do a third video here in the next few months when I can have a better, more coherent story to tell with this topic. But anyway, I hope your day is great. I hope you smell. I do need to. I don't know how to end these. Okay, bye. Hasta la vista, baby.